Hello, everyone. My guest today is Cory Margand. He is the CEO and co-founder of a company called Simpliship, which is a startup focusing on creating an international air and ocean freight SaaS-powered marketplace for freight procurement. He spent 14 years in supply chain management working with companies like Adidas, Reebok, Rockport, and has a master's in operations design and leadership from Worcester Polytechnic Institute. All right, Cory, you ready to take us to the top?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
All right, so what you guys do is a bit of a mouthful. Try and simplify it for me. No pun intended there. What do you guys do?
Sure. So in the world, there's hundreds of thousands of freight forwarders that can move your freight. And if you're a shipper, the problem is finding the right price and right service levels for your container or air freight that you're shipping. It's B2B, right? And, it's highly fragmented because there's hundreds of thousands. So it's similar to when you're going on kayak as a consumer and you're trying to find the best price for a hotel, all over the world. We do a similar approach for that. It's not exactly the same because international freight is very complicated, but that's a simplified version of doing that. We basically use software to automate that process of finding the right rate and the best service levels.
So like an Adidas or Reebok, these kinds of customers, it sounds like you're playing in the enterprise space, but correct me if I'm wrong, on average, what's a customer paying you per month or per year to use your technology?
Yeah, so we actually give, in most cases, we actually give our software away for free.
Okay.
And so what we do is we're a marketplace approach. So BCOs like Adidas or shippers, we call them as well, can bring on their providers and use our marketplace as well. So we vet our forwarders, so it's not like the wild, wild west. You can feel pretty good about the.
So how do you make money?
Sure. So we take a transaction fee basically on the awarded freight basically. We are very much an API first company, so we integrate on both sides. But basically what happens is when the forwarder receives freight from a BCO, we get a commission of that freight.
Okay. And is it the same no matter what? Like, how do you quantify what that commission is?
Yeah, I mean, right now, so we being from the international logistics space, we know basically what the CAC is for forwarders. So we know we have some leverage there. I mean, right now, what we do is we do 2% on the ocean side and 5% on the air freight side. Now, for us, there's a lot of room to work with as long as it's below the forwarder's CAC.
You said 2% ocean, 5% air?
Yep.
And let's role play real quick, just so my audience understands. I'm Adidas. Who are you? Let's say you are the other person Adidas needs and Simplifies in the middle of us. Who are you? The actual manufacturer of the shoe in China?
Sorry, repeat that, Nathan.
Who are you, right, on the side of the equation? So I'm Adidas, Simplifies in the middle of us, and you are what, the manufacturer of the shoe in China?
Well, I'm not. We're a software platform.
No. We're role playing. We're role playing.
Okay.
Simpliship's in the middle of us, right? So
yeah.
I'm Adidas. Who are you?
Yeah, sure. So basically, you would have forwarders. So you have forwarders, MVOs, and then you have.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what those acronyms or things are. Can you give me like a?
Yeah, so basically from a high level, you have an ocean carrier, which as the actual vessels or the ships, right? And then a freight forwarder buys space with those ocean carriers up front. They then take that space and resell it to an Adidas or any shipper, basically. And we sit in the middle of those hundreds of thousands of forwarders and basically take the Adidas freight and systematically contact all the forwarders either through API integrations or through spot rates and make sure that we're basically getting them the best service rather than having Adidas have to go out for RFPs all the time.
Okay, let me paint this like really clearly. So there is a massive container ship traveling from Hong Kong to LA, right?
Yeah.
And it carries thousands of these cargo containers. A freight forwarder has purchased one of these containers, which costs $2,000 to reserve the full space. Adidas needs like 1/3 of that space. The freight forwarder would typically charge them, maybe they mark it up 100%. So they're going to charge them whatever, $2,000 for just 1/3 of the container that costs them $2,000 altogether. You're essentially going to take that slot worth $2,000, right? Compare it to all the other kind of freight forwarders that have pre-bought containers on that ship, and then Adidas can pick the cheapest option.
Exactly, cheapest or best transit time or whatever the case is, but they'll have full profiles. So it's not just about price. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. But so they'll get the full picture of what it would cost them from a end-to-end standpoint through our platform.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm curious about this number. Over the past 12 months, how much, you don't call it GMV, but I guess how many dollars of placement on the ocean and air side have gone through the platform?
Yeah, so it's a bit tough because we honestly we could we look at the transaction fee, but I guess you could just actually look at it. But it's multi-millions, so we are a bootstrap company.
Dude,
So
I love that.
Yeah, thanks. It's been difficult for sure, but I would say we're probably in the $10 to $15 million range.
And what's the breakdown on air versus ocean?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we are a little bit different than your typical open marketplace, especially with our API approach, because we integrate our API with specific marketplaces, right? And so we have one customer that, you know, is very abnormal compared to the other ones. They only do multi-millions in freight spend a month, right? No ocean freight. But I would say typically if you're looking at, you know, the US market specifically, you're looking at probably 75% ocean freight versus the 25% air freight.
Interesting. And that 15 million that's gone through the platform, that's over what period of time? The last 12 months?
Probably roughly, yeah, give or take. Yep.
So how do you, and it sounds like you have one kind of major customer. How many kind of how many people equivalent to Adidas are using your platform? How many customers?
So we have, not Adidas from the size of Adidas. Actually, they don't even use our platform. It's just, you know, that's who I work for.
Yeah, but that persona, right? How many of that persona?
Yeah, so we have, I would say, 400 of that typical persona, ranging from SMB all the way to large global enterprise.
Okay, and then so that's 400 on one side of the marketplace, and then how many freight forwarders are listed on your platform that you'll sit in front of?
Yeah, sure. We have about 350, and we're growing that daily. The difference in us and some of our competitors is we're not really an open marketplace, like I mentioned before, because if you open a marketplace outside of the US, it's not highly regulated. In your basement in China, providing rates to our customers, and we don't want that to happen. So we're actually very careful on who we onboard. So the reason I bring this up is 350 is just a number, right? It doesn't mean much. What we could have, I mean, we don't want to be the marketplace that has hundreds of thousands of forwarders on our platform. We want to be the highly curated. So we take it slow and we make sure that any forwarder we're bringing on is actually adding value to our current BCO or shipper network.
So tell me more about the company. So you're bootstrapped. How many folks are on the team today?
Six.
And when did you launch?
So we launched basically halfway through 2015.
Okay, 2015. So you've been at it, call it 3-4 years, bootstrapped. What was total revenue in 2018? Do you know?
I don't really share it, to be honest with you, for many different reasons. But
well, you just said you put 10 to 15 million through your platform, and you take anywhere between 5 and you call it 2%. Let's say an average of 3%. That would mean about $450,000 in total revenue over the time period that 15 million went through you. So you've already kind of shared it with me.
Yeah, sure. Depending on the product market, but yeah, that's typical.
Okay. What do you mean depending on the product market? I don't understand.
Well, so as you're doing bootstrapping, you also do typically other stuff. So on the domestic side for TMSs, we kind of...
What's a TMS?
Transportation management software. So basically they're doing the domestic version of what we do. So they do trucking, parcel maybe, but everything within the US versus international. And so what you end up doing is, in logistics specifically, there's not many logistics teams with budgets for software, especially because we're kind of early on the transition to digital. So what happens is they'll oftentimes come to us and say, look, we like the software, we like the rates you guys are getting, but we don't have a budget for software. So what we do is we actually want you to handle it internally. So we do what we call quote unquote managed service. So that's why it's not necessarily apples to apples. And this is where we control the margins.
Yeah. I mean, this space though is hot. I mean, I had Patrick on a while ago from, I think you pronounce it Zanetta. Like they're playing in this space, and everyone, they all of you guys are kind of attacking this from different angles in terms of pricing kind of perspectives, right? So like, I guess my question to you is, do you view yourself as a SaaS platform or not? Because really you have to get people constantly using you every month for you to truly stack your revenue.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Zanetta's done a great job, by the way. They're different, we're not competitors with them. They've actually revamped kind of the index, how you get historical data. In terms of SaaS, I mean, I think the approach is changing. I mean, I've had this conversation with so many people, especially in the logistics, but I consider a marketplace as an aspect of SaaS. Now, your pricing model might not necessarily follow a SaaS model. And to be honest with you, from my standpoint, don't really care because our API actually integrates with high volume shippers. So my biggest KPI is really how many integrations we're doing. because that's all I care about. Because instead of going after one BCO and getting, let's say, or charging them $100,000 for your software, instead we integrate with a marketplace that's trading chemicals all over the world, cars, lumber, whatever it is. And now you've got multi-millions, and you actually got 15,000 BCOs that are trading through that marketplace.
What's a VCO?
A BCO is beneficial cargo owner. So Adidas is a beneficial cargo owner. So an importer, basically.
But you just told me you're focused on scaling the other side, the freight forwarders, not the BCOs.
No. So actually, that's not true. We're actually concentrating on API integration. So we have a marketplace, right, where BCOs and forwarders basically match supply and demand. But really, the growth is coming from our API integrations, which is B2B marketplaces or domestic TMSs that want to offer international to their customers.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second. You are essentially driving margin out of the freight forwarder business. They have this nice little kingdom. You're coming in and destroying it because you're basically making their prices public to Adidas, so Adidas has more leverage and can choose, right? Why on earth would they ever want to list on your platform when you're basically taking their margin, and you don't do enough volume right now for them to feel like they're missing out on anything if they don't get on your platform?
Yeah, I mean, sure. So that's a really good loaded question. So there's a few ways to attack this.
By the way, it's a good question though, right? That is the main thing.
It's a great question because, I mean, this is something we face all the time, right? Yeah. It's you're trying something new and people are, obviously.
So you beat the hell out of them. That's the answer, right? You force them on your platform.
Yeah, I do. But I actually, to be honest with you, the relationships are so key. And this is why we've been able to, as a team, I think, do pretty well because our team's all operators from the industry. So relationships are still key.
Yeah.
Now, to answer your question, it's so many different dimensions. But one is the CAC for a forwarder is super expensive. So not just from a sales perspective, not an operation perspective, from quoting and all that stuff. Sales costs like $1,000 a week just to maintain an account. That's not additional incremental business.
Hold on. You lost me. It costs the person that buys the freight forwarder who buys bulk container space to that then they resell to Adidas. It costs them $1,000 a month to maintain what?
So that forwarder is basically taking out that customer, Adidas, wining and dining, or whatever the case is, maintaining it from a time perspective. It's expensive, super expensive.
So they don't have to spend that with your market, essentially, if they go through your marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, relationships still matter. And then on the ops side, quoting is extremely expensive. So everything's manual today, for the most part. I'd say the majority. So it costs a forwarder $5 to $10 to manually quote one customer. It's expensive.
What does it cost? What does it cost you to get another Adidas on board? Typically, your fully weighted CAC.
Nothing.
No, come on. It costs you something. You have to fly to them and meet them sometimes in relationships.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I just thought, like, from an API integration standpoint, we don't do anything.
No. But fully weighted to get like another Adidas, a big logo on your platform. Do you know what it costs you?
No, I mean, we're still so early on. Basically, what we do is, I mean, we actually don't even target large BCOs anymore. Like I said, we're targeting the API side of things because it helps us scale. But, in a grand scheme of things, the difference is for a freight forwarder, when they call an Adidas, what happens is it takes 6 months to a year to 2 years to multiple years to actually get freight. I can tell you because I sat in that seat. So, I mean, we're a fraction of that cost. I mean, really, it's a fly out. Of course, there's calls prior to that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a fraction of what a forwarder's spending if we actually want to go after that freight.
What's your? Sorry, I'm going to cut you off. We're just running out of time. So I want to talk forward for a second. Now that I think I understand kind of how the company operates. I mean, how fast can you grow this thing? What's the goal in 2019? I mean, how much volume do you want to pump through the platform?
Yeah, I mean, so we're actually so like I said before, we're targeting APIs, right? So API integrations. We already have about 10 API integrations on the marketplace and TMS side. Each one of those represents multi-millions in spend. So we're talking in a full year in 2020, probably 10 plus million in revenue for us from those integrations alone.
Okay, that would be over 300 million, right? Or 400 million in terms of volume if you're going to keep 10 million, which is 3 to 5%.
Exactly. Yep. So we have. Yeah, I'll go ahead.
No, that's good. Go ahead. Say what we're going to say.
I was just going to say, we've really found a key niche in the marketplace approach because they're so high volume. Like, no one buys just one drum of chemicals. They're shipping, hundreds monthly basically, and that's one customer. So that's kind of how it all of a sudden exponentially becomes a lot larger.
Yeah. And so if 10 is kind of your goal next year, I mean, what do you think this year? What's your stretch goal for this year?
We're looking at, so we have this is a mix because we're still doing managed services, right? So we're looking at like 2 million in ACV. And so logistics is a little bit different. When you land an account halfway through the year, you don't get the whole, obviously, contract value. So it's a little bit up in the air right now as we're going through contract season.
Do you think you'll hit the 2 million? Like, are you more than 50% of the way there right now?
No, but we're not 50% of the way there now, but we have 1.3 ACV that's tied up from last year. So basically that back half should speed up a little bit.
I see. Interesting. Okay. And so what percent of your total revenue over the past 12 months has been a split, like been the commission structure versus you doing managed services to bring in cash to keep the company afloat?
Yeah, it's probably like 70-30 versus the managed services versus the transactional.
70% transaction?
70% managed services.
Okay.
Right now in 2019, we'll have those 10 API integrations go live, which would be really big for us. And that's that's the goal, to really move all the managed services onto the pure tech solution. Yeah,
but dude, by the way, a lot of people, especially if you raise capital, will try and ding you for that. I actually think it's a major, what you're doing is very smart. The largest software companies start off as almost purely managed services. And it's even better when it's by a guy that is from the industry. So like, listen, I think you're building this the right way. I just hope you stay bootstrapped and don't go get super diluted and raise a bunch of capital.
No, I know. Me too. I mean, I think it's been really great for us. I mean, it's been stressful. Like, obviously, I think the key is to obviously raise capital if you need it and when you need it. Of course, I shouldn't say when you need it, but when you can actually have that leverage and continue on your way rather than taking money not on your terms.
Last question here. Do you have any idea what typical contracts, like when you start, launch an API integration or you get a new customer like an Adidas a year ago, what will they typically expand their transaction volume through you by year over year? Is it 20% expansion, 100%?
It's really super tough because it's complicated. Like from the BCO side, what happens is it basically ties in with their sales plans and then sourcing plans and supply chain. So the volumes are really hard to tell on the BCO side. The marketplace is also tough because it's exponential growth for them as well. But I can tell you what we have seen is around 20% growth on the marketplace side.
And then what about any churn?
We haven't seen it on the API side. The BCO side, we've probably had like maybe a 1% churn. But, once again, it's also tough. You'd have to look at it from a customer size perspective because, you go from SMB to global large enterprise. So, of course, one hurts more than the other.
Yeah, interesting. And last question here before we wrap up with the famous 5. You said you're hoping to do 2 this year. What would that be in terms of growth rate over last year?
It would be, it would be like 500% for us. It would be.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're doing you did like 200 grand last year, 500 grand last year.
Exactly. So it would be huge for us. I mean, and that's all being really boosted by inbound. So, we have really tight domestic partners that, do freight or whatever, domestic freight trucking. And, a lot of inbound referrals and then the API integrations hopefully as well.
Yep. No, it all makes a lot of sense. What's the team breakdown real quick? How many engineers?
Actually only 1.
Oh, wow. Okay. Good. So you're chugging away, man. Very good. Let's wrap up with the famous 5. Number 1, what's your favorite business book?
I actually don't read that much, to be honest with you.
That's okay.
There's one that actually I just read about platforms, but I forget the title. It was done by some MIT guys.
Yeah. Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
No, I don't. To be honest, I don't follow CEOs. I could care less, but I do follow a lot of business guys in our industry and really learn from a lot of people like that. And my mentors throughout my career. Number
3, is there a favorite online tool you have for building your company?
Oh, God, no, not really. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not really into we have a marketing guy that handles all that, but I do.
No, not marketing. Just any tool you use, productivity, personalized. Yeah.
Honestly, my favorite is LinkedIn.
Perfect.
It's not really a productivity tool or anything, but I can reach my followers and people inside the industry pretty easily.
Cory, number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
Oh my God. I sleep terribly anyway, but let's say, I would say I hope to get 5 would be awesome.
And what's your situation? Married, single, kids?
Single. No. Reach out.
there you go. Not married. All right. No kiddos. And how old are you?
I'm 33.
Last question. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
Oh my God. I wish I really understood what I wanted to do, but that's a lot of what everyone thinks. But I mean, I wish I really knew where I was going to be at 33 and the struggle that I would go through in terms of building a business. I would have done a lot of things differently through learnings, and also, been a little bit pickier with my network, both professionally and on the friend side as well.
Guys, Simpliship.com, 6 people bootstrapped, helping big companies or even smaller companies basically figure out where and how to buy space on whether it's air or freight shipping containers traveling on the seas. They've got about 400 companies like that tied into their platform. Launched in 2015, did about $300,000 in revenue 2018, hoping to get that up to $2 million here this year. That's still 70% managed services, 30% kind of API SaaS based, hoping to hit kind of the $10 million mark in 2020 as they continue to scale. Cory, thank you for taking us to the top.
Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it.